Welcome. I'm Dr. Jerry Nolan, and this is Love is the Answer. Today I want to share just a few of my favorite quotes and insights regarding love. The Apostle Paul, in his letter to the Corinthians, first letter to the Corinthians, talks about love as being long-suffering or requiring patient endurance. Love is not easy. It's a hard thing to do. We're going to suffer. We're going to feel some pain. And we have to be willing to stick with it over a long period of time. Three things. Number one, we all have an ego. We all have this little voice in our head that tells us that we're the center of the universe and that the world revolves around us and that everything exists for our well-being. Love, on the other hand, tries to tell us that we should pour ourselves out, that we should give ourselves to others, and that we have to be giving, not receiving all the time. Related is that we have our own interests. They need to become secondary when we're loving. Quick example as a teacher. You're pressed for time, you're making a test or you're doing grades or something, and a student walks in and they need you right now. And you've got this time-sensitive thing to finish, but this student really needs you. And what you do, again, when we're filled with love, we put ourselves aside, our interests, and we do something for the other. Same thing can happen with a friend, or a spouse. You've got something planned, you're really looking forward to it, you want to go do that. All of a sudden you get this call, or a person drops in and says, "Can I talk with you for a while?" Whatever it happens to be. And so when we love, we take even our highest interest that we have at that time and we set it aside. That's hard to do. That is really, really hard to do. And thirdly, we're going to be rejected. There's going to be some long suffering. It's going to require some patient endurance. Again, from teaching, you work with a student, you work with a family, and you really put yourself out there, and you make every accommodation you can. And sometimes that family, that student, still sees you as the problem, sees you as being the impediment, and you've done what you think is everything you can, and there isn't going to be any real give back. There isn't going to be any appreciation. Our love, quite oftentimes, is rejected. That makes it really hard. Erich Fromm once wrote, "This attitude that nothing is easier than to love has continued to be the prevalent idea about love in spite of the overwhelming evidence to the contrary." Love is long-suffering. Love involves patient endurance. There's going to be suffering along the way. It's one of the reasons that being a truly loving person is our biggest challenge in life. And I've given you 3 reasons why that is so. And so understand that there's going to be suffering, there's going to be pain involved. As Mother Teresa told us quite often, love anyway. The second quote, again, comes from Paul in his first letter to the Corinthians, chapter 13, "Love never fails." We know from the wisdom literature, we know from history, human history, we know, and the arts, literature, and now through science, that love is the most potent, the most transformative power in the world. Mahatma Gandhi, love and nonviolence. He liberated an entire nation, 1 billion people in India through commitment to that. Those concepts. Mother Teresa, this tiny little woman from Macedonia, got a message from God that said, "Go serve the poorest of the poor." And she gave her life to that cause, serving in love. And people asked her decades later, and her Missionaries of Mercy started with just her. And now they're on every continent, spread throughout the world with the exception of Antarctica. And people would ask her, how did you grow such a large organization? She said, I helped the first one. And she talked all the time about, I don't worry about the masses. I worry about the person in front of me. I serve the person in front of me. I serve the one. That is the key to serving the many. And so those are two examples in my lifetime. What does love do? It binds us together. It helps us work together. Fear and indifference, love's opposites, scatter us. And people have written on this topic. I happen to agree with it. But you take the force of gravity. Scientists really don't understand gravity very well, but we know that we wouldn't survive without it. What holds my body together? Gravity. What keeps us on the earth? Gravity. If there wasn't gravity, all our atoms would be scattered throughout the universe. And love binds us so that we can be together, work together, heal. Gravity is essentially the physical reality of love. It's love in physics binding us together. So love never fails. We may not always see the fruit of the love that we give, but it's always there. Sometimes, again, as an educator, you work with a student and you think, gosh, I didn't make any real progress with that. Please believe that love that you shared with the kid, that you helped to promote their goodness, well-being, and development, maybe you didn't see it, but a year, 2 years, 3 years, 20 years later, I've interviewed hundreds of students, mostly at the high school level, and they talk about their elementary teachers all the time. They talk about their high school teachers as well, but they talk about teachers who probably think, I've been forgotten. Here's something from the natural world that might illustrate this. Chinese bamboo. You plant it. It doesn't break the surface. You still have to water it and fertilize it and take care of it, but it doesn't even break the surface for 5 years. You plant it, and for 5 years, it's just underneath the dirt. And then all of a sudden, in 5 weeks, it grows 90 feet. That's how love works sometimes. It's there, it's underneath, you've planted the seed, and maybe other people come along and, provide the rain and the other nourishment. And at some point, your efforts pay off. And they might be 5, 10, 15, 50 years later. You don't know. Love never fails. It also never fails because it transforms us. It's a little bit like running, okay? If we want to get better at running, we have to go out and run. And as we run and we build up our endurance and our strength, it's like loving's like that, in that the more that we love, the more capable we become of loving. Abraham Maslow teaches us that love given unconditionally represents the highest nature of our species. And please understand that every time you give of yourself, you pour yourself out, you're not only helping somebody else, it never fails that way, but it never fails to help us to reach that highest stature of a loving human being. Like anything else, it's practice. Running, baseball, doesn't matter. Writing, reading, loving's the same way. And so if you don't think, if you ever have worries about that, hang on to that. Love never fails to help the other, the beloved, as well as the lover. We hope you enjoyed this segment. Please read our companion blog at drjerrynolan.com. Watch our other videos on either drjerrynolan.com or our YouTube channel, Love is the Answer. Like us on Facebook, and as always, on behalf of me and my entire family, we wish you an abundance of peace and love.